Hey everybody, welcome back to another Trekyards Podcast. I, of course, am Captain Foley.
And I'm Commander Cockings. Hi everyone.
And today we have a little bit of Discovery news, a tidbit that was released by Brian Fuller, actually. Kind of something tantalizing. And if you've looked at the thumbnail for this episode, I'm sure you're intrigued. So why don't we just get into the discussion on this? There you go. Romulan Warbird.
Yeah, he said that Balance of Terror is going to link to the new to Discovery.
Discovery uses Balance of Terror as a touchstone, he says.
Yes. That's very vague, but very informative as well.
Yes. Now, does that mean that it leads into the events of Balance of Terror? Does that mean there's a direct link between the two? Does that mean that it uses it as an influence for the overall story arc?
Or the tone,
like
even?
Yeah, like a cat and mouse game over the 13 episodes of a new Discovery ship against an enemy ship that we don't know about. Is that the feel they're going for? Is it directly Romulan related? Well, I kind of doubt that last one, to be perfectly honest with you.
My every time people conjure, this is very much discussion, and we're going to put out some. We're going to think, because we know a bit about the behind the scenes, we know a little bit about what script writing is and how we're not going to go too far out of what's realistic in this podcast to what we think could happen. But I always, whenever people discuss what might happen and they go really far, I always consider, well, the ship is named Discovery, and they specifically say that is a big point of the story, Discovery. So it's not going to be a war story, because that would go against... They chose the name for a very specific reason, They didn't go for SS Destroyer, So... it's interesting, however you do that. I mean, I for me, when I heard this rumor, instinctively, my first gut reaction was it's going to show the catalyst for the Romulans to start attacking the Federation outposts. It was more than just the weapon, just testing. It was a specific, either aggressive move or they want to fight back. I mean, we know that they saw the Romulans. We knew they knew who the Romulans were. So, unlike TNG, there isn't such a gap of we can't see the Romulans because we do know them, We have had a Romulan war, it's a while ago, but it isn't that... Okay, yeah.
Even in FASA canon, we never saw the Romulans during the Romulan War. There was no visual communication with them ever.
No.
We did not know what they looked like. It was
but we know what their ships look like.
But they don't. Are they going to use Enterprise as canon? They probably will, which will ruin it. Because this could be an awesome catalyst for how the Romulans developed a cloaking device. Why or how they developed the plasma torpedo. That would be great. But the old ships that the Romulans had during the Romulan War before Enterprise came along and screwed it up were pretty bulky ships. They had like wing shapes. Awful. They're in FASA. You can see them.
Some awful designs.
Well, older style of ship, like the Daedalus class. It all fit together in the timeline. Then Enterprise came along and messed it up. So if they use Enterprise as a canon, which I'm sure they're going to, it's going to be less interesting than it could have been had they not done that.
I disagree. I think that we know these two touchstones of Romulan technology, well, three technically because of the drone ship. We know that they have a similar style. One is a warship, one is a testbed ship. We know they have the advanced looking thing. We know where it goes to, but we've only seen these two very stylistically similar designs. We don't know what a cruiser looks like, a heavy cruiser, a battleship, a dreadnought, but we know the aesthetic roughly. So I would love to see beyond that and see a fleet of Romulan ships, just all these diverse designs, see them branch out, because I never felt the ship in TOS was representative of their aesthetic. It never is so different to the later ships and then the earlier ships. I mean, let's say the earlier ships, I suppose, but that is the test bed. It has to be that style. They didn't paint it green, because it is a test ship. It's just there to do this one job with this most powerful weapon. I think maybe, I don't know if we're going to see from their perspective that I maybe going a bit too far, because if you can't show the characters in terms of reacting to the Earth people, then it's kind of like, well... You
can show the Romulans, they just can never see a human.
Yes.
And they can't have visual communication, so you can see each side of it and hear the audio communications coming in or whatever. But the fact that the ships in Enterprise were that advanced, can't tell me they don't have visual communication.
Oh, of course they do. They just didn't want to. They're very screw you. I mean, it's a Romulan war for a reason. They went to war and then all this jazz. My question to you, first of all, then, is: do you think the touchstone nature of this means that the overall story arc of the 13 episodes will link to Touchstone with Balance of Terror, or it'll be just a singular piece of the arc. Meaning, is it going to be some link to Romulans throughout, or just they'll bump into the plasma factory that generates the coils and say, hey, this is Balance of Terror-ish? What do you think?
Well, Brian Fuller was very vague about it, so it could be anything from a simple reference to in one of the episodes that kind of is a catalyst for something down the road, to actually being the whole story arc being about Romulans, or, as we said, just the whole tone and feel of the thing. The way he said it's going to use Balance of Terror as a touchstone is just that. It's a very vague thing. We don't know what he means. And I think that's why he's dropping these little hints.
Well, let me pitch something to you and see what you think. That it's one direction they could go. It's a bit too canonized if they go this way, because I think they'll try and branch into new things. And this is very like one season arc rather than, seeing the Federation. But what if the Discovery is out exploring? They don't realize Romulans have annexed that territory. It fights a ship. We don't know it's Romulans. They don't know it's Romulans, but they get disabled. Maybe they only have warp 0.5, and suddenly it's a story about how they're actually like 100 light years inside Romulan territory, and now it's that cat and mouse game. Now it's that every episode they have to try and outsmart the Romulans, just like we're talking about Terror. That naval warfare. Both ship. Well, they are damaged, but the Romulans, maybe they damage them too. Maybe it's that sort of. But then it's a very like minute part of the universe, and while we'll see it from the personality, it could be interesting if every episode we lose crew members and we feel the ship getting just damaged. It could be interesting, but you don't really get to see the world, which I think they want to really branch into.
And I know what. Well, that's a great. I like that. That would be actually kind of fun. In enemy territory, deep in enemy territory.
And it's only near the end that then they would realize, oh no, it's a Romulan design, or even not realize at all. Or it's like, oh, it cloaks, that must be a Romulan. It's like we don't, obviously he's now revealed that, but we don't let the audience know it's Romulans until right near the end. So then you realize, well, it was a Romulan story the whole time, but it doesn't have to be Romulans. It's just a nice touchstone.
Could be, or I know what a lot of people out there are thinking with the hate that they've had for this Discovery design, with the big wings, that the Discovery was a Federation experimental test bed for something, and it gets captured by the Romulans, and they use the Discovery to design their bird of prey from TOS because it looks exactly the same. I know that people are going to say that kind of thing because
I have not even heard
it's got Klingon wings, it's got Romulan wings. I've heard it all, and it's a little irritating. It's a nice looking ship.
I have not even heard that. I hadn't considered that because that's so ludicrous.
I know, I just made it up on the spot. Of course you haven't heard it. But everybody's been complaining that it looks like a hybrid between a Federation starship and a Klingon ship.
Just because that's how it looked back then. They just gave it a slight dip in the wings. That's all it is. They made it more aesthetically pleasing by giving it a dip. Now it's more Klingon-y, but it's just one of their many shapes. I mean, it's not bird of prey, it's not raptor-y, it's not, whatever.
I know, but I had to throw that out there because I'm sure somebody will comment that that's what's going to happen. It looks Romulan, and somebody thinks the Romulans stole it.
Again, I've said before, I don't think they're going to go deep into canon because they want to create their own world. They want to create their own nugget of the Trek universe, and so, as I've said the whole time, the best Trek story is a story that happens to take place in the Trek universe. So they're not going to link it to. They're not going to say this is the Balance of Terror prequel. They're not going to say this is the Tholian Web prequel. I mean, they're not going to do that stronger link. Maybe for a single episode because fans want that sort of thing, but not for the whole arc. It's going to be very original, very different. If they can stylistically link it to something in TOS or other, that's great. Like the submarine warfare, like I said earlier, just having that tone, fighting ships is that sort. It's very tactical, it's very thought-provoking, it's very use the nebula, use the gravity of this planet, make it very, because that's also scientifical. It's not a word. It's very scientific,
Scientifical.
Like Matara Nebula in Wrath of Khan. Like use the science of your environment, and that could be interesting. But what was your take? Like where did your brain go straight for story that could mean touchstone to the Balance of Terror wise?
It didn't go anywhere right away. I thought, okay, it's gonna. Well, it did, I guess. I thought it was going to be a direct prequel, as it were, to Balance of Terror. Something happens during the course of Discovery first season that ends up culminating in what we see in Balance of Terror episode. But then after reading it a little bit more, I'm thinking just the overall tone, perhaps the cat and mouse game between the Discovery and an enemy throughout the course of the 13 episodes. because it's not going to be episodic. It is serialized, so
Yeah.
that is very much a possibility.
Like a lot of great television now, like Game of Thrones and such, we like these big grand stories where, yes, if you miss an episode, you're pretty much not doing well, but if they do a full Netflix style, they might even release every episode at the same time. They're not going to, but once 13 weeks is over, you've got the entire show, so forevermore, there's not, why did you miss episode 7? Well, it was next in the queue, you're not going to miss it, you know what I mean? And because it's all online primarily, we're in the era where you shouldn't be missing. And if you want to wait all 13, just binge it, as I think a lot of fans are going to do, especially if they hear the reviews. It's going to be even more intense. You will genuinely feel like a 13-hour movie. That sort of, thing.
Yeah, so I'm either way, I'd be happy. I think that tone of story really works. It's very dramatic and it's very very realistic and very engrossing. Like Balance of Terror, Wrath of Khan, that submarine style combat is very. And of course, we do have Nicholas Meyer at the helm of this as well, and that's what he brought to it.
He brought that realism.
He didn't do Balance of Terror, but he did bring the realism of naval combat to Star Trek 2, which made it one of the most popular movies.
And he brought the military style of, he brought all that regulation stuff to Star Trek 6, which gave you such a flavour of Starfleet, which brings me into another thing. If you want to break down, because we don't know what they mean, but if you break down Balance of Terror, there's also racism in Balance of Terror, which is that could be another theme they're going to bring in specifically, but rather than be race, be alien, maybe there's a crew member on the ship that's another race, even Andorian or whatever, and there's a crew member who's racist, and that's a good way of tackling that issue, but not in the it's a white male versus black male, whatever. It's like, well, some people haven't got over alien cultures, and that'd be a great platform. That's what Gene Roddenberry would have done and did do, tackling these issues. You've got to imagine. I don't think they'll go anywhere near the TNG scheme of every actor, every character loves each other. They're not all best friends, because that is drama and humanity. Even though I think it, as I've said before, there's a great character in Stargate called Ronnie McKay, and being brave is not about being able to go into a situation, have no fear. That's just you being you. Brave is being scared of something and then being to overcome that fear to do it anyway. Ronnie McKay is a hugely brave character, far braver than Ronan or Taylor or anyone, because he overcomes that fear. So maybe same thing with characters. It's not, they can be flawed people, but when they overcome that flawedness to then be a team at the end, that actually shows they are more stable human beings. They're more real because they're overcoming it. They can be racist, sort of. They can be prejudiced. They can hate her because she's too tall and too whatever. But as long as they overcome it, then that shows a positive message.
Yeah. I think and it makes it very realistic, which is something we want to see.
Yeah.
Interesting. Another thing I think might be the touchstone to Balance of Terror. Might be, we know that this is after the Romulan War.
Yes.
So this could have a direct tie into the fallout of what happened after the Romulan War. Much like World War II, there was a lot of back and forth, and the peace treaties and the kind of reclaiming of Europe and stuff. So I think if the fallout of the Romulan War, I think it'd be very effective for this, because we know that the Treaty of Algeron got signed, where the Klingon or the Federation can't use cloaking devices. Things like that. Like, to hear that kind of backstory as to why that was a thing would be amazing. It's a great way to tie it in and not necessarily link per se to Enterprise or whatever. Just there is a Romulan War in all of the different versions and histories of Star Trek. So
I that's a great idea, and like you say, link it to Enterprise, because a lot of people want to see an Enterprise season 5, and that was going to be at least partially what was in that. The problem is Romulan War is a long time before this. A good 60, 50 years. It's a long time, and the war, I believe, is only meant to be 5 years. Now, like I said at the start, treaties take a long time to make, but even so, I don't think 50 years is going to so it might be maybe the son of someone who fought in the Romulan War, or we might see older characters, obviously, because everyone lives longer in the future, they look younger, so I'd love to see flashbacks. I mean, that would be a great way of, PTSD of the Romulan War. You're telling, you're giving this character such a texture by linking back to a war that we've never seen, but by doing so, you can then flashback. You see an NX refit, an NX fighting this battle, things get annihilated, Romulan things in Enterprise costume, and you get this 2 second, 3 second, 2 minute, whatever flashback, and that's your Enterprise cameo, you know, and you can make it so dark and so gritty and so what it should be, and then it's like that era was amazing, you know, but it is only 10 years before or pre-TOS, so we're already into the Klingon Cold War, you know. I think they never, I didn't even mention the Romulan War in TOS. They must have, but in the Battlestar episode possibly. But
I think they did, yes.
But it definitely wasn't overriding. I mean, nothing was an overriding theme. It wasn't a continuity driven show in terms of it wasn't serial. It wasn't arcs. But there was no like, ooh, the Romulan War was a few years ago. That said, never really mentioned the Klingon War either, really. So take that with a grain of salt. But I think you're right. Maybe the children of the Romulan War have those resentments, or some of the older people, whatever. That could be really amazing. Like I said, PTSD story in Star Trek. You've never had that sort of thing apart from Nog, and he said before, and Eisenberg, that's his favourite episode.
Wouldn't it be interesting, though, since they don't know what the Romulans look like?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be interesting if there's a Vulcan character who's actually a Romulan operative?
Oh, that's incredible.
That you see his kind of, sneaking around, doing spy stuff, espionage. You see it from his point of view, and nobody else has a clue because they think he's a Vulcan. And it will directly reference somebody or something from Balance of Terror in the future. Like, I don't know how that would tie in, but I think that'd be fantastic, and it would really make it a realistic, gritty, kind of serialized show. And I think that would be amazing to see, because no one would know that he's a Romulan, because they'd have no clue what Romulans look like.
You know, I think you should phone up Brian Fuller, give him that nugget, because that is the best nugget I've heard so far.
I'm doing that right now.
So far in Discovery Talks, because that would be so fascinating and so intricate, because obviously you couldn't reveal it, that's fine, although you could still reveal it to say a single character, then it kills the character, or the character, he drops off in a shuttle pod. I mean, there's things you can do to still reveal it, but to have the perspective. So I'll let you.
And if you remember, there's that old Romulan on the bridge in Balance of Terror, talking about the glory days of the past and whatnot. What if it was that guy? He was infiltrated Federation space for a time, and then went back and that'd be an amazing tie-in right there if it was the same character. I don't know.
I just
we know that Vulcans and Romulans live a lot longer than humans.
Yep.
So
and just having a spy means that you get tension. You get, what is he doing? What is the reason for it? Or even a woman, make it a Vulcan Romulan spy woman, and why not? You get that real. Well, they're not going to blow up the ship because it's the hero ship. But what are they doing? And I think the Romulans are the race that would send spies. And especially when the Federation is the other adversary, the primary other race. You've also got Klingons, but they're a specific breed of style of culture. But the Klingon Federation, you can put the Vulcans in, means you can have Romulans in very easily. I mean, all you need to do is just build a Vulcan ship, fly into Federation space, apply to Starfleet Academy, and within 5 years you've got whatever. It's not, wouldn't even be difficult, and then it makes the friends. Maybe he decides not to blow up the ship, or you see this battle with himself. Are we still at war? Am I part of a sect of the Romulan resistance that goes against or I'm a Tal Shiar, one of the oldest Tal Shiar members, and I'm here to try and destroy the flagship or whatever. I mean, that could be really, really fascinating. And the payoff doesn't have to be that big, because just the struggle, the depth, and it's like it's a question of identity, because you have to play a Vulcan. So it's an actor playing a Romulan who's an emotional but still very strong character. He's playing a Vulcan who's a very reserved character, but a Vulcan who's trying to overcompensate for the spyness. So, but will they break? There's a lot you could do with that.
And it could be that Discovery, since it's not a ship design we're familiar with, was designed specifically for espionage, intelligence gathering, or discovery of what the Romulans are doing, or just kind of things like that.
Well, my hope is that she's an old ship. My hope is that she's at least 30 years old.
I agree, but it could be too that it was a one-off ship that was designed for a specific purpose, and that this guy's infiltrated that crew for a specific reason, because they're on a specific mission.
Yes.
And that could really tie in with anything Romulan down the road, I think. So,
Yes.
I don't know. There's lots of possibilities, and Brian Fuller's being very clever with the way he's releasing information.
Well, it's a little bit drip drop, but now they've moved delayed it, which I think they must have known for quite a while now. I'm guessing you don't release stuff that early necessarily unless you're really ready. But I'm sure, just like we suddenly got the ship teaser, we'll suddenly get a cast teaser. It's like, oh, these 7 actors are in the show. I think we'll do it in big bulk to give you bigger discussion, and then those little tidbits. Yeah.
And just so you guys know, we're going to be there for every announcement to talk you through it and speculate and try to find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm. We just got me more excited about that link straight by that, because Romulans are such a... I mean, I've heard by a lot of people, like in podcasts and things, that Romulans, they love Romulans because of the culture, the dichotomy between Tal Shiar and the main people, and then we see sometimes how just the average Romulan is far nicer and more trusting, and just this, it's a very interesting culture, and the architecture and the designs, they want to see that develop. Obviously, they missed out for the Romulan War and such, but Discovery, I as a ship, like I said before, I don't want it to be like the uber special this ship. I mean, we know that in the Malcolm Croy design anyway, it's sort of a carrier. It's got a huge shuttle bay, and if you compare it to TOS size, it's a massive shuttle bay. Mm-hmm. So my inclination is that it's a rescue
carrier
ship,
with fighters
carrier.
Maybe.
Yeah, fighters or just shuttle escorts. It's the ship that's going to go in and save people. It's a pretty hefty ship. Maybe refugees. Maybe it's evacuates a planet, but there's a few Romulan spies in it, and I think what could be the simple tie-in to Balance of Terror is that there's an arc for the ship, an arc for the characters, but there's an arc for one Romulan character who's just trying to decipher the information that gives them the access codes and the locations of the star bases that they then destroy in TOS. Like it could be as simple as that. Like,
yeah, the outpost that the Balance of Terror,
because they annihilate a lot of stuff in that episode. I seem to remember, it's like literally blow. That could be pretty interesting.
You just made me think of something else actually. With the whole size of the ship and the fact that it's got a lot of hangar space and whatnot.
We assume.
Yeah, could it not be a colony ship as well? And that would be a perfect fit for the name Discovery. They could be establishing outposts. Maybe they establish one of the outposts that actually gets destroyed in Balance of Terror, as maybe not necessarily a colony ship like to colonize a planet, but to at least get out to the frontier, build, even if it's a construction type vessel where they fabricate pieces in bulk have like work bees and stuff.
This, Stuart. You keep having great ideas this episode, because that is superb. Imagine the story of this ship that's an older rust bucket almost, but it starts at Earth. You see Earth space dock. It takes this colony crew, takes these 300 extra people. You've got a crew who are not happy with their job. It takes this colony of people and supplies across the neutral zone, so you get to know the civilians. They get to this planet, they put down, but then Romulans come and do something to it, or even not, or just linking to we know all these people are going to die, but yet you love them so much, and then you see the troubles of being an average citizen in the Federation. What does it mean? Is there money? Is there not? Is there bartering? Well, what if the person needs a very rare mineral? What if they need not tetracell white, the thing that the Vulcan in T'Pol injects himself with? Ketracell? No, that's whatever, a drug. Maybe it's a barter, some sort of DNA splicing technology, whatever. Maybe there's what is the darker side of this? We saw it some in Section 31. We saw some with Enterprise when they're on Earth, and that's obviously very early. But and then they get there and they drop the people off, and then something really bad happens, and then
perhaps it is specifically a military vessel, and they're going out to build those outposts along the neutral zone that do get destroyed in Balance of Terror. So it's specifically designed as a fabrication ship, like I said. They replicate big, huge parts. They got a lot of work bees, a lot of repair ships or construction ships docked inside, perhaps. And they build these outposts that eventually do get destroyed in Balance of Terror. And that's part of their assignment, is to establish the outposts, the listening outposts along the neutral zone to keep an eye on the Romulans, make sure that they don't violate the treaty, anything like that. That would be the perfect tie-in, as it's not a direct tie-in. You mentioned that they're establishing one outpost, and that outpost gets destroyed in Balance of Terror. It's like there's a touchstone. That's exactly the definition of a touchstone.
But then obviously, you also have that cat and mouse where a ship comes out and they have to fight as well in the middle. Something else, and maybe and I think the Romulan spy, cat and mouse battle in the middle, maybe 3 episodes of a cat and mouse, and set up outposts would be really incredible. How would you feel if the saucer is a living space, the neck is whatever, but most of the aft is construction yards. Although that said, don't have water pipes. Don't go JJ. Build bloody space
won't.
sets. So,
I'm sure they won't do that, but I think that'd be great. The lower half is all like factories and shops creating all these parts.
And that would
to build
explain
the colonies.
why it's so different. I mean, that would straight away be it's completely. We've never seen a ship like this before because we've never seen a ship like this before. At that point, you can justify any stylistic difference because it is a completely different thing. And almost, you could argue, that's why there might be phaser ball turrets. Maybe it's got the most advanced weapons because it needs to defend itself, so it's got more like starbase emplacements.
It might need to defend itself, yes.
So it's got, every starbase has, the starbase, the Space Dock one, they have had the phaser ball prototype test beds, but the ships that go out to the frontier that need those multiple defensive arcs, they've been given the phaser ball turrets first gen, but then they're being tested, and when they're refined, got smaller, then they go on the Connie and stuff for the refit. Maybe that explains the first gen nature of that. Because wouldn't you want to keep your construction facility safe? I mean, obviously you'd have a fleet of ships with it theoretically, but you'd want to arm it to the teeth. Or it depends where you are. Obviously, if you're in Federation space, you wouldn't need to. But if the Romulans can come in at any point, maybe why not give it 74 phaser turrets? Cool.
Yeah, but it could be that's just that. It's a construction ship that's supposed to be out there for extended periods, on site for a while. I don't know. I think there's so many possibilities, and we've ran over a lot of them right now. So
yeah,
I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down below, guys.
Yes, let us know if you think it's a full arc story, a single story. If it's not, if we're really overthinking it. I don't think he would release it unless it was important. And I think they've probably thought, where can we pull parts from that make textures the world, but aren't ripping off, and aren't stealing, and aren't divisive. And that episode has the racism, has the marriage at the start, has the the loss of an alien ship they never got to see. They have all these things that are part of the world, and really add something that aren't just an episode like Spock's brain. So
anyway, guys, and on that Spock's brain note that just destroyed this whole podcast, thank you very much, Samuel.
Okay.
I think we will call it.
We have a Romulan too.
I think we will call it a wrap. So, looking forward to hearing your thoughts and comments down below, guys. If you have any Discovery speculation, please be nice, as always. And, we will keep you posted on any new updates that happen with Discovery. And, of course, stay tuned to our regular shows as well, because there's lots of stuff going on.
Always is. So, until next time, guys, I am Commander Cockings.
And I'm Captain Foley.
I will see you next time.
Bye everybody.